Here we have the inside of the Mileo 286. If we firstly come to the main control panel just here, we can turn the 12 volt on by firstly pressing this button and then this one. Once we've done this, we can then turn the water pump on and off on this button just here. We need the water pump on to be able to get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it has been drained down. We then have awning light on, awning light off, and then buttons along the bottom mainly give us information. So this first one here will give us an indication of the condition of the leisure battery, and then we have condition of vehicle battery, how much water is in the fresh tank, when the waste tank needs to be emptied, a red light will begin to flash next to the waste tank symbol just here, and when the water level drops into the red, you will get an amber light to let you know you need to be thinking about filling the fresh water tank back up. And if either of the batteries were low, again you will get flashing lights to indicate. This last button just here just controls the illumination of the control panel, so we can brighten it up and dim it down. This is indicating we are connected to mains electricity, and we will get an illumination just here to let you know the alternator is charging the batteries when the engine is running. Beside the main control panel, we then have the Truma control panel for the heating and hot water. So it's currently just displaying the time and again letting us know we have main supply connected. If I now press the button, we will then get a series of icons, and as I begin to rotate you will see them flashing. If we start with the first icon, this one here is for your heating. So if I now click the button, you will see that the heating is off, and then all we then need to do is just rotate and pick whatever temperature we would like it to be inside the motorhome, and it will go right the way up to a rather toasty 30 degrees. So let's say we would like it to be 30 degrees in here. Click, and you'll now see a little flame has appeared above. That little flame there just represents the heating system, and it's just letting you know that you've set a parameter. When the heating is actually in operation, this will begin to flash, and it will continue to flash until the temperature you have asked it has been achieved. After heating, we then have hot water, and again you'll see it's currently off. All we now do is rotate, and we can heat the water in eco mode, which will give us a temperature of about 40 degrees. We can heat in hot, which will give us a temperature of about 60 degrees. And we can also perform a boost. The boost was mainly designed if there's going to be more than one of you having showers in quick succession of each other, or if you just want a longer shower. If you do perform the boost and the heating's on, the heating will turn off, as it needs to use that extra power to perform the boost. So if I now drop it back into eco, you'll see the heating and the hot water have now come back on again, and exactly the same as the heating, once the water temperature has been achieved, this will then go to a solid state. If we now move along to the next icon, we then have power source. So we are currently using gas, indicated by the little gas bottle up here. If I now rotate, we can use a mixture of gas and mains electricity at 1 kilowatt, or a mixture of gas and mains electricity at 2 kilowatts. This setting here is extremely handy in the winter months if you want to get up to temperature really quickly. It will only then use the gas as it's required. And then after that, we then have mains electricity at 1 kilowatt and mains electricity at 2 kilowatts. If we now move across to the last of the top icons, this first one here is for the circulation fan for the heating system. So it's currently in eco mode, so it will gently trickle the warm air out. What we can do is turn it up to high. And with this as well, we can also use it to vent the motorhome on a warm day. We do need to have the hot water off and the heating. And if I now return to it, you can see we can put it into vent mode, and we then have a fan speed of 1 to 10. If we now drop to the lower icons, this first one here is for a timer. So if I now click on it, I can now set a time that I want it to begin at, and then finish. And then once we've done that, we can then literally tell it what we want on within that time period. Lastly, timer on, timer off. If I now activate the timer icon will come up there, and now within that time period those settings would then apply. If I now click on it again, I can turn the timer back off again, and when I return to it, I can alter it again. If you're going to be using the timer, it really helps if the clock's correct, and that's all this one here does. And then after clock set, we lastly have the settings menu. So within that we have offset, which is just for the thermostat just here. So if you don't think it's quite correct, you can just slightly alter it. Temperature, just if you prefer it displayed in Celsius or Fahrenheit. Brightness of the screen, 12 or 24 hour clock. Language, index, which is more for the technicians, and then lastly full factory reset. From time to time these control panels will throw up error codes. A lot of the time it will be something relatively basic, so if you're trying to use your heating or your hot water on mains electricity and you don't have main supply connected, it's going to throw up an error code to let you know. The same with if you're trying to run it on gas and you don't have gas. 9 times out of 10, as long as you rectify the problem, the error code will just automatically disappear. The error code will appear where my finger is as a warning triangle, and if you click on it, like I say, it will display the error code. If it doesn't automatically disappear, double click on it, and sometimes it will then just say no error and disappear. If you still have no luck, if you still have stuff running, just turn it off, because it can usually assess a heck of a lot faster when it's not trying to do lots of things at once. If that still doesn't work, I always then suggest the good old-fashioned turn it off and turn it back on again. And the way we turn this off is just by holding this button in here. Just continue to hold until it says off. And then if you turn it back on again and you still have an error code, I then always just suggest trying the full factory reset. Sometimes these units can just glitch and they just need to be reset. This system can also be controlled via an app, either on your smartphone or tablet. If you are going to do that, you firstly need to download the Truma app onto your device. You then need to make sure your Bluetooth is turned on and then launch the app. Once you've done this, you will then find it comes up with a thing that says remote control. If you press that button, you then just need to follow the on-screen instructions, and it will firstly ask you to come to this box here just above the fridge. It will ask you to press the Bluetooth button just here, and then you will commence pairing up. Once you've paired up, you can then control your heating and hot water locally via Bluetooth. If you want to control it from further afield, what you can also do is purchase a pay-as-you-go SIM card, which goes in roughly where my finger is just here. You can then register it through the app and then control everything from much further afield. Also up here we have the digital amplifier for the television aerial. We can turn it on and off just on the side here. and we can control the boost just here. We then also have in here the solar panel regulator. We do not need to do anything with this. It will just let us know what it's up to by the lights on the front of it. So you'll see there's an amber one on at the moment, letting us know it is actually charging either the leisure battery or the vehicle battery. If the amber one goes out, a green light will appear underneath it, letting you know that it's in float mode, which means it's doing either very little or absolutely nothing, as it's not required. You'll see the white one on, which is just letting you know that UV light is hitting the panel, and you will get a red light above it, which is the alarm if there is a problem with the panel. If we now still continue talking about the heating and hot water system, if you are running it on gas, you cannot open this window here, or it will error code. The reason being is the flue for the boiler sits underneath this window. So as you open it, the pressure switch, which is just here, will pop out to cut the boiler off to avoid you getting carbon monoxide poisoning. So do make sure that you leave this shut if you are using your heating and hot water on gas. If we now go underneath this bench seat just here, we have the location of the boiler itself. So we can see the unit just here. And then we also have the drain valve for the boiler. These drain valves are automatic, so if the temperature inside this motorhome drops below 3 or 4 degrees, this valve will automatically open to drop any water out of the boiler to frost protect itself. What we can also do is drain it down manually, and if we are going to do that, what we need to do is twist this blue diamond here, and when we twist it, a blue button is going to pop out at the base of the unit when my finger is down here. All we now need to do is twist it and push it back in to reset it. Once we've reset the boiler, all we then want to do to actually refill the boiler completely back up again is make sure we have water in the fresh water tank, and then turn the water pump on to reprime the system. Beside the boiler, we then have the battery charger just here. We can turn it on and off on this red button just here, but we really want it on when we're hooked up to the main supply to be able to charge both vehicle and leisure batteries. We then have the 12 volt fuses just here. If you are going to blow a 12 volt fuse, it's going to be one of those yellow 20 amp fuses, and it will usually be the fuse for the drop down electric bed. If you do have too much stuff on that bed and you put it up, if the motor goes under too much stress, it will pop the fuse to protect the motor. And then we have the mains trip switches just here. So if something's not working on mains, just check to see whether or not you've tripped. And if something's not working on 12 volt, it's just check to see whether or not you've blown a fuse. This motorhome is fully winterized, so the waste tank, which sits underneath the van on the outside, does have a heater in it. So if you are using the van in extremely cold climate and there may be a danger of the wastewater freezing, what you can do is come to this switch here, flick it on, it will turn the tank heater on to avoid any frost damage. The freshwater tank does not have a heater in, as it is an internal tank, and it sits underneath the travel seats just here. So if we just remove the cushions, you'll see the water pump just sits here, and then the fresh water tank here. We can also gain access to the fresh water tank just here, so if you want to add any cleaning powders etc. to the water system. If we are going to use the 2 travel seats, we need to drop this section just here. So tucked underneath, there are 2 levers that just need to be pulled, and then we can then drop it down out of the way. Just underneath this part here we do have a little storage section. The Avtex TV sits just here. It can move up and down just by undoing here, squeezing in and then sliding up and down on the rail. We can then also move it out and swing it about. Behaves like most televisions, on and off just here. You will also find that we have a DVD player in the side and USB points on the top. Again, normal stuff. We have the TV guide etc. just here, and because this is a travel television and you will require retuning as you move about, we have a quick retune button just here, and it is just hold it in, pointed at the screen, and it will then take you straight back to the retune menu, and then it's just a matter of pressing OK and it will then research. As we move round, we then have the fridge freezer on and off on this button just here. This unit is an automatic, so as long as you are on A for auto, it will find the best power source it can for you. So because we're hooked up to main supply at the moment, it's put us onto mains. If I now ran outside and pulled the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas. And as soon as you start the engine, it will then automatically go over to 12 volt maintain to keep itself cold on the move. What we can do is also select manually if we want to. All we need to do is just hold the grey button down. It will begin to flash, and then just move it along with the arrows, so I can manually put it onto mains, manually put it onto 12 volt maintain, and manually put it onto gas. But auto is the easiest one to have it on. Once we've selected, we can then select the temperature. We then have a good sized freezer box at the top, and then fridge and a pull out section at the bottom. We have the extractor fan just here, light on and off, fan on and off. We then have the hob, so we have the electric hot plate which will just work on the main supply, which operates just here. And then we have the 2 gas burners. That is just push in, twist and then press the igniter. And then beneath that we have the oven and the grill. So if we push in to the left, we can fire up the oven. And if we then go back to off again and then go to the right, we can then light the grill. All of the gas isolation taps for all of the appliances are located in the cutlery drawer. As you can see, they're all here and they're all in the on position, and they can stay like that. I always say they're more for maintenance than anything else. If you do smell gas in the van, I always say go to the source and turn the gas bottle off. The microwave sits alongside. It's always advisable to remove the contents for travel. Again, we'll only work on mains electricity and behaves like most microwaves. We have the quick start and stop just here. This is also a grill. So we have power settings first, then grill, and then combination. Above my head we have the Truma air conditioning unit. To turn the unit on, just press the blue button. We then have a series of modes just here. So at the moment we are literally just in air conditioning mode, and then we control the temperature on the plus and the minus just here, fan speed just here. After that we then have heat, which is not applicable to this model. Auto, so just full climate control, just pick the temperature you want it and it will then just maintain. And then just air recirculation. And then back to the beginning again. If we now slide back down, we also have lights, so we can turn the lights on and off in the unit. We can also set a timer through this, and we also have a night mode, so it will quieten down to allow you to be able to sleep with it being on. And then back off again on the blue button. If we now enter the washroom, we have the Thetford toilet just here. Bowl swivels all about. Open to the cassette on the grey lever just here. Blue button to flush. And then close the cassette back up again. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you are feeling resistance, just make sure nobody's left the flap open. Level indicator just here. So this will rotate round to red when it needs emptying. Basin. And then the shower cubicle. Do make sure that the shower screen is clipped back for travel. The light switch for in here is just tucked underneath the vanity unit. We then have the nice large wardrobe in here as well. And if we now come back out again, we then have another very good sized wardrobe. Also the infill for the second bed. If you do forget how it makes, it is illustrated just on the wardrobe door. And we also have access to the garage and a set of steps, so we can get right into the back of the wardrobe. The electric drop down bed functions on this button just here. We can have it in the higher position, and then it's just a matter of just hooking the ladder on here. Tucked underneath we do have nets that can be clipped up to the ceiling. The light up here on and off just on the end. If we are going to have the bed in the lowest position, we need to make sure that the cushions are not in the way, and secondly the lights are turned off underneath to avoid damage to the upholstery. If this bed was to malfunction in any shape or form, it can be manually wound up and down. If we come to this part here and remove, there is a 13mm nut just there. Just attach the bed winding tool to it and you can then wind it up or down. These lights just here do have USB charge points just in the top of them.